Morning everybody, I'm Dr. Jimmy Henderson, a cognitive scientist and metaphysician. And my approach during my books and my writings and articles and talks is to explain metaphysical and spiritual concepts in terms of human psychology and science as well. And today I'm going to do another extract from my book, which I spoke about, my latest book called Understanding Metaphysics, using psychology to better understand metaphysical experiences. And yeah, I hope that you enjoy this section. What I'm going to be talking about today is consciousness itself, the human consciousness, and showing you the different ways people approach consciousness and what, in terms of metaphysics, how powerful consciousness really is. Okay, let's start with science. Science sees consciousness purely as the activity of the brain. It's basically to them the same as self-awareness. You become conscious of something if you see it, and that is the extent of consciousness. They do have a different approach in that they look at levels of consciousness in terms of brain activity, which can be measured on an EEG, electroencephalogram, and scientists have accepted a continuum of consciousness stretching from deep sleep to high mental activity. According to them, scientists, the more awake we are, the higher brain activity we have, the more conscious we are. Metaphysics does not agree with that. I will now give you the metaphysical differences between metaphysics and the scientific approach. Metaphysics allows for additional phases of consciousness called enhanced or altered states of consciousness, in which you can actually open certain areas of the mind, especially the subconscious mind, and then get more information than you would from normal day-to-day consciousness. The funny thing about this is metaphysics works with the lower end of the brain spectrum, in that they go for the alpha state. That we train our minds to go into the alpha state of mind, which is 8 to 12 cycles per second, which is lower than normal brain activity. And in that time, the actual conscious mind sort of half goes to sleep, goes into a state of peacefulness and balance, and then the subconscious mind then has the opportunity to come out and emerge. And as metaphysicians, we work mostly with the subconscious mind. And as a cognitive scientist, that is my main field of study. Okay, what does science, what do the new sciences say about consciousness? The new sciences, I'm talking about quantum physics now, which is a new area, which is not new, but it's been around for a while, but it's becoming more and more to the fore because it's starting to answer questions we couldn't answer with normal science. Okay. Physicists who also work with activities and processes at the subatomic level, and this is what they call quantum physics. In metaphysics, we tend to see consciousness as something that exists before the brain. In other words, independently of the brain, as a sort of state of energy, of being that exists outside of the human body, and then we tap into this consciousness through the brain structures. So it's a slightly different view. Quantum physics actually is starting to accept this, because many forward-thinking quantum scientists actually believe now that the universe is to a degree conscious, or in some way conscious, which we can't understand. It is so complex that they say that there's no way that it couldn't be conscious. And the fact that it gives rise to life and consciousness also indicates the presence of consciousness, conscious energy, if you want to call it conscious energy, a very, very enhanced form of consciousness or energy in the universe itself. Let's have a look at what Nikola Tesla says here. Nikola Tesla says, the brain is only a receiver. In the universe, there's a core from which we obtain knowledge, strength, and inspiration. I've not penetrated into the secrets of this core, but I know that it exists. And this is Nikola Tesla, a very famous scientist. And he started this, I would say he started this view, although it did exist before in philosophy, from a scientific point of view. Now there are other quantum scientists who've also supported the idea of consciousness existing as a conscious energy in the universe. look at the quote from Albert Einstein, for instance, another quote. He spoke of a quantum field, unified field, or universal field, which exists within the universe. He said, this field is the sole governing agency of the particle. There's an information field in which everything in the universe exists. Now that's important, because he's actually saying that this consciousness is connected with the activity of creation. An information field within which everything in the universe exists. A type of web or superfluid, the instant transfer of information from one body to another, one consciousness to another, and from the field itself to all of life. In other words, Einstein was actually saying that this field is the essence of reality, the essence of life, the essence of creation. And that is, in metaphysics, that's a very, very important view. And yeah. So what other views of consciousness are there? Do we accept that consciousness is purely something from the brain? Or can you accept this idea that consciousness exists outside of the human body, and that we then take in this consciousness and then are able to phase it down into a state which becomes our self-awareness? Right. I've spoken about the complexity. I also want to speak a bit about neurosciences. Now, in neuroscience is where the actual scientific exploration of the brain. There's a new approach where they've combined it with information system technology, which is also new, artificial intelligence. I'm sure you are aware of that. The scientists putting forward this theory also believe that there's a free-flowing consciousness which emerges in very complex systems. In other words, complex systems, when they start to work, we talk in AI, actually have a form of consciousness. And in fact, that they have given an index of consciousness called pi. And as I say, this has got huge implications for artificial intelligence, but also for the human being. In other words, as complex organisms, as complex systems, we are then able to reach this level of consciousness as a result of the free-flowing consciousness in the universe. So there's a lot of people, a lot of scientists are now buying into this idea. And all I want to do is ask you to consider the possibility that consciousness is not emerging in the brain, but actually exists outside of ourselves as an energy state in the universe. And then we then merely take in this energy state, this conscious energy state, and then through the brain process, it becomes our self-awareness. And we lose a lot, obviously. We lose a lot when this takes place, and this is why we have to go into these enhanced states of consciousness in order to get back to that high level of conscious energy, which we can't get through normal brain activity. So I hope that hasn't been too complex and boring for you. It's just a short introduction to this. This is contained in my book, as I said. I go quite deeply into consciousness in my latest book, which is available from Amazon.com, as well as Barnes & Noble and other Apple platforms. All the platforms, I think, will have it. And then also you can get it from Fiona van Rensburg, hard copies at the Portal of Alchemy, or you can go onto my website and order directly from Amazon, www.discoveringyourself.co.za. So I hope you've enjoyed this little talk today, and I wish you all the best. Thank you.